Hi, and welcome to Wealthy Living Radio Show. I'm Lisa, your host and founder of Wealthy Living. I'll be having fortnightly conversations with a variety of professionals to discuss topics that cover all areas of wellness and how our choices impact our life, our work, our relationships, and our health. And then together with the guests, we'll discuss ways to help you live a wealthy life. So I strongly value making choices and helping my clients make choices that are connected with their values, their integrity, and their ethics. And my special guest today is a business coach who champions this. And I've learned a lot over the last year or so from this man. He's my standout role model and mentor when it comes to applying the values of generosity, honesty, integrity, and humility into business and teachings, and teaches so many other people to do this as well. He focuses his business on ethical, authentic, and joyful marketing. I love his ability to balance spirituality with a very pragmatic and grounded approach to his business processes. So let me introduce you to George Kao, a man who has hundreds of clients and offers so much valuable free content in articles and videos about authentic marketing and joyful productivity. He's the author of 2 books. The first one is Authentic Content Marketing, and the second one, which is due to come out this week, is Joyful Productivity. So welcome, George.
Thank you, Lisa. What an amazing introduction. I'm honored to be here.
Oh, thank you. It's such a pleasure to have you. As I said in the intro, I've been watching you for quite a long time now, and it's just so refreshing to have someone in the space who really does focus on the virtues of life and really values generosity and authenticity, and especially in a time when I think, in a way, authenticity has lost its meaning because it's become such an overused word. But you do not, you really put out stuff that really holds true to the meaning. So, yeah, thank you so much for all the work that you do and for coming on and agreeing to be on the show today.
Thanks, Lisa. Yeah, I'm really excited to talk about anything that would be useful to you and to your listeners. We can go into marketing and business done from a place of authenticity to productivity tips and tools. So I'm all yours here.
Oh, brilliant. Because, I want to talk about all those things. I want to talk about authentic and ethical marketing, as well as all the joyful productivity. There's so much content. You do 3 videos every week, and you have the books, and you're writing blogs, and there's just so much content that it was actually quite overwhelming for me to come up with what to even talk about today. And what actually kept me from the overwhelm was your actual content, because your content was all about joyful productivity and how to reduce the overwhelm. So I had that in my consciousness as I was starting to feel overwhelmed by all your content. So it actually worked quite nicely.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
Yeah, so I just want to sort of talk a little bit about, maybe you can share with the listeners a little bit about what led you to being a conscious marketer and a business coach.
Yeah, sure. Happy to share. And I'm going to, tell the story in a way that maybe everyone listening to this can relate to, which is that when we first start a business or get started in a career, we may have these dreams, these ambitions of success. Particularly with business, it's, financial success and, fame and whatever it may be, that in fact, that is what is often sold to us by business gurus. You can make lots of money, you can build a huge audience with just following my 5-step formula, and in 90 days you'll be rich,
Yeah.
And, of course, I consumed plenty of that kind of content and courses in the beginning, and I was brainwashed into that kind of stuff myself. And And I followed their formulas, and when I started to do some of these things with marketing, I started to feel that some of it wasn't true to me. But and again, a lot of listeners maybe can relate to this, but because we trust the gurus so much, we trust our marketing teachers and coaches and whatnot, that we think, well, maybe there's just, maybe I'm just too shy, I'm too introverted, or I should follow what they say. I don't want to make any mistakes here, And so we can tend to set aside our real selves and take on the mask of how we're supposed to be in our business and in our marketing. And sometimes that's making our company look much bigger than it actually is, or using certain scarcity tactics and urgencies that we wouldn't want our own family to be treated to in order for us to sell a product when we use these things. And so that's what I did in the beginning, because I thought I was supposed to do that. Now, what's maybe unfortunate about it, or fortunate, is that it does work financially, which is why people keep doing it, which is why many of us feel some level of discomfort with the marketing that we ourselves are presented with. That we feel like, it's not how we would talk to a friend. It's not how we would want our family members to be treated. But I guess that's how you're supposed to do it, right? And so I should say this: it works for the short term. Just like if I want to twist your arm, you will do what I make you do because I twisted your arm. But if I twist your arm, you're not going to trust me the next time. If I sell you a product or program or service using, deception, or hype, talking about the extraordinary results of 1% of people who bought this product, got these amazing results and led you to believe, maybe not say it directly, but almost suggest that if you buy this, you too will get these extraordinary results. That's the definition of hype, is talking about such a tiny sliver of results that most buyers aren't getting. But if I use that, then you go, oh my God, it sounds amazing. Of course I need to buy this. And you buy it, and, all of us, just statistically, we are more likely to get an average result than an extraordinary one. And so if I sell you that, you are less likely to trust me the next time. So it always seems to work for some people in the short term, and then kind of like, it's kind of like using, chemical fertilizer on in agriculture. You can or hormones in farming or whatever. It works in the short term to grow things quickly, but then you are damaging the sustainability of the land, the animals, our water, and in this case, you're damaging the sustainability of your reputation and your relationships and your brand in the long term, or even in the middle term. So,
yeah, I mean, it's true. There is so many examples of sort of scarcity, as you say it, or manipulation style marketing, and I know that when I started doing a lot more online business was around, or learning a lot more about online business was around 2015. And I didn't know a lot. So I did jump on a lot of webinars, and I did jump on a lot of reading about a lot of things, and everything was about funnels and list building. And that was the way to really build your audience. And there wasn't a lot of information back then, because that's like 3 years ago. So there wasn't a lot of information like there is becoming more of now with people like you and a few others, where it's talked more about building relationships and connecting. And beforehand, when they did talk about building relationships, it seemed more about only building them once you've drawn them into your funnels or into your mailing lists. So I also went down that path for a while, and not only did it did I find it not very joyful. So it wasn't sustainable for me because I found it really boring and not very joyful. But also it just it felt really quite manipulative. So I just felt there's got to be a better way. But, the interesting thing that you talk about, when you said about the sustainability, but yet it being very financial model or based on finances in the beginning is, you went down the path like you described, that's kind of how you did it in the beginning, and then when it didn't feel quite right, you sort of knew that you needed to do it a different way, and but you first built, I suppose, a fair bit of wealth by doing it the original way, or the more mainstream or more manipulative, so-called manipulative way. So were you then in a better position and a more, I suppose, confident, or in a position to take more risks, to do it in the way that has a longer process and has the ability to build all the authentic relationships because you kind of had that safety net already? Is it possible to do that if you don't do the other way first?
It is a really good question. Totally true. One thing was that even as I was doing that way, I did feel guilty about it, and so I did, donate a lot of my profits to various charities and causes that I believe in. So I didn't save as much money as I maybe would have or should have or whatever it may be. But yes, I did accumulate some savings that allowed me to transition from that way of doing things to a much more authentic way. And I would say the transition took me, I essentially started my business over. Because most of the people, most of the email lists that I built, the email subscribers and the audience, I had burned through. Really, today, my audience is essentially started from 2015, 2014, a little bit there. But I was doing the original, more mainstream and salesy way from 2009 to 2013. In 2013, I started, 2012 even, I started feeling the breakdown internally. And what's interesting was that when we are doing something that doesn't feel in integrity to us, if we care about integrity, if we care about our values, we will eventually sabotage our own efforts.
Yeah.
Our conscience will make itself known by various sabotaging actions, which started happening for me in 2011 even. Just 3 years into it, I started kind of sabotaging some of my own projects because I didn't feel quite right about it. In 2012, definitely my business went down dramatically, financially went down dramatically in 2012. And then 2013, I essentially stopped my business entirely and took that year of 2013 to regroup and say, gosh, what do I do now? 2014, I started virtually at zero. And with an audience that was 90 to 95% removed already. So I did start with like a 5% of my original, 5 to 10% of my original audience. But just about everybody today who was a client or one of my workshop students came to discovered me in the past just a couple of years when I started doing it better, I think, with a long-term perspective. So yes, just to kind of go back to your question, if you want to do things the authentic way, you do need to either have a job that supports you, or have an income source, or some savings that will support you. And I'm going to be honest with you, if you don't have, if you're going to do your business full time and try to live off of it, I wouldn't recommend anything less than 1 year of living expenses saved. I think with 1 year, within that 1 year of doing business authentically, you'll start. If you were doing this full time, you would start to build a part-time income within the first year. And if you keep doing it authentically and do the more strategic things, doing the right kinds of content and reaching out to the right kinds of people who really love your content, et cetera, creating offerings that they really want. Within 2 to 3 years, with strategic, thoughtful, and enough effort, you should be able to replace most jobs' income within 2 to 3 years. But I'm not going to, like many business gurus might say, hey, join our 6-figure income program and you'll have 6 figures in 3 months or 6 months or even 1 year. No, I think that is, again, because I've seen the numbers, because I have had thousands of people buy my programs over the years, and partnering with others to sell their programs over the years, I know what the realities are, and I would give it 2 to 3 years to replace a job income for somebody who is not dilly-dallying, for somebody who is working diligently. And I'm not saying you got to work 80 hours a week. As you know from reading my book, George Kao, I believe very much in work-life balance. And I myself, what's interesting, research has shown that the greatest productivity happens when people work 35 hours a week. 35 hours. Now, that is, I'm not talking about that is working time. I'm not talking about lunches and breaks and things. So 35 working hours per week, and depending on how many breaks you take throughout the day, it could be 40 to 45 sort of total hours, but 35 hours of actual work. Now, you don't have to be hyper productive during those 35 hours, but you are making an honest effort during that time. And if you do that for 2 to 3 years, starting with after a year, you'll build some part-time income, and then 2 to 3 years, if you build some part-time income in the first year, which shows that you are going in the right direction, then in 2 to 3 years, it's reasonable to replace any job income.
Wow. So it definitely takes a bit of time. So that's a really valid point, and it's good for people to know that, because I think people like to, want to do this way and have a lot of fear around it due to the fact that the realities of life, of paying bills and, all the things that the money has to do. And so it puts this sort of conundrum in there of going, well, I want to run my business this really ethical and authentic way, but I've got bills to pay and I don't want to go into a lack mindset. So I want to stay with this abundant mindset and be authentic, but it's not working for me. So that's really good to hear that from someone that does do it so well, and you did have to kind of start again, but to know that you sort of had that little pool of money available for you or for other people, suggesting that they stay in another job that gives them some sort of income, so that they don't get too stressed and then revert back to ways that don't feel within their integrity.
That's it.
Yeah.
Beautifully said, beautifully summarized. And what you said about scarcity mindset is really important. If you go with some of these training and marketing programs that are being sold to you, it sounds like, I just have to buy this program and follow the step-by-step, and in 3 to 6 to 12 months, I'm going to have a 6-figure income, then I can quit my job. I can jump off the cliff, essentially, with this program.
Yeah.
And that is what I don't want anybody to do, which, by the way, of course, in the early days, I thought that I could create those results for anybody who bought my program, and some people did jump off the cliff with me, kind of thing. But now, of course, I have much more experience. I would say, if you don't have a partner to support you for 2 to 3 years, if you don't have some savings, if you don't have a job, please do not go at this needing to extract the money from your clients and customers in the first year, because you will regret it and your reputation will be soiled. Your own conscience is going to rebel and act up. And I'm, again, if I could talk to myself right now from 10 years ago, this is the very podcast episode I would be saying, please listen to this and please really consider this.
Oh, great. Hey, George, just 1 second. Someone's just messaged me to say that your voice is echoing a little bit. So I don't know if it's an audio thing or if you need to drop your volume down or put a headset on. I'm not sure what your setup is, but I
have a headset on. I wonder, is your computer speaker on a little bit loud? Maybe that's echoing through.
Yeah, maybe.
Through your, or it could be a temporary issue sometimes.
Yeah.
And maybe other
We'll
listeners
we'll keep
chime in
going
to
and we'll see if it corrects itself, or maybe I'll try turning down the volume a little bit, or maybe you can do the same. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. But they said that they can hear you, but that you were just echoing a bit.
Yeah, that's probably a temporary issue. But thank you.
Yep, no problem. So yeah, just to continue. So that's really good. I'm really glad that we talked a little bit about that, because that was something that was on my mind a little bit about, this is an awesome way of doing things, but do you need to, what time, what time in your business can you actually do it? So, I want to talk a little bit about, we've talked about the how you've arrived at coming to this way of marketing and how it therefore made you feel. So I just want to talk a little bit more about that, because it sort of covers why it matters. So we've talked about what it is, but why does it actually matter? And why does it matter to ourselves? And what impact does it have on us and those around us and the greater world and all those things, to market authentically or ethically or impactfully? Like, why does it actually matter?
Wow. I could talk about this all day long, but let me just, I'll start with this. It matters because you will either feel bad or feel good. And because we spend the majority of our waking hours doing work or trying to build our business or at our jobs, or the way you work, the quality of your work is the quality of your life for the most part. So if you are working from a place of, God, I don't feel great about this, but I'm going to do it anyway, you are essentially living a lie. And if you were to really talk to me saying, you know what, again, back in 2009, 2013, when you said, okay, George, this conversation is going to go nowhere. No one will ever hear it except you and me. Please tell me how you are really feeling, because you look really successful right now. With your 6-figure income and with your great house, and you look really great. And I wish I could have the same conversation with some of the entrepreneurs online that make themselves look like they have 5 houses and 10 cars or whatever it may be. Now, again, some of them may really feel great about how they're doing things, but as I see their marketing, I'm like, wow, that is a lot of hype. And I know that most of the people buying your programs aren't reaching 6 figures in 6 months or whatever. If you were to really ask me back then, I would say, I am anxious just about every day. I'm afraid to open my email sometimes because I don't want another refund request. I'm afraid of yet another complaint. I am afraid of yet another criticism from someone who felt like my marketing methods weren't totally legit. I'm afraid of looking at myself in the mirror because I know that this is not how I want to do things forever. And I'm under this illusion that I can just do this for a few years and make my money, and then I'll be a good person later, which is essentially what many people do in their own jobs too, is that let me just make my money, and then I can, whether you're talking about your own personal values or whether you're talking about having the time to do the things you really want to do in life, let me just make the money now, and when I retire, I can go have the experiences that I really wanted to do in life, do the hobbies that I wanted to really pursue. Essentially, what we are doing when we don't live authentically and build our business authentically is we are postponing our true lives. And we are saying that we're putting money and external success in the short term, believing that somehow that will then allow us to live our true lives, when in fact it always backfires. It backfires on our health, on our relationships, on our relationship with ourselves, on our relationship with our spiritual path and source, and it eventually creates a lot of regret and a lot of, essentially, I wish I could have done it differently. Now, of course, the way that I am making use of those years, for me, those are like little lost years, right? Is that I really honestly didn't have a role model that was doing authentic business. I didn't. I didn't know what else to do. And so I did it that way because that was the only way I knew how. And by the way, a lot of business gurus market themselves as being conscious and heart-based and spiritual or sacred or whatever. And I was learning from them, and essentially, even though their language was conscious and heart-based and spiritual and whatever it may be, their marketing tactics were not.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Right? And so I thought, well, they say they're conscious, so they must be conscious. So that, that was what who my role models were.
They were using marketing techniques themselves.
Well, they were using mainstream marketing techniques dressed up, using the words called conscious.
But those words they were using those
were
words
burning the
as
relationships.
Yeah. So I mean, from what you've just said, you didn't paint, by doing it that way. It didn't paint a good picture for you of your health and the way that you felt on a continual basis. And there's enough evidence out there to say that when we feel contentment and we have a greater real connection with people and we have less of that anxiety and stress, our whole overall well-being increases, which obviously has a ripple effect on our work and on our health, our physical health, and on our relationships. So, when you describe how you felt, that disconnected and lack of integrity and anxiousness and just that, feeling inside that just went, this is not me and I'm disconnected to myself. Has that major impact on ourselves.
And I'll tell you what there was one question that got me to really start shifting at the end of those beginning years, those dark years. And the question was, what if I only had 6 months left to live? Would I keep doing this?
Yeah.
And initially the question was too challenging for me, so I didn't really ask it of myself, but it planted a seed. And, in 2011, 2012, that's why I started sabotaging my business subconsciously, because I said, no, if I had 6 months left, I wouldn't be doing this kind of tactic. I wouldn't be using hype and scarcity and creating more of that ripple in the world. Because the way we do our marketing is not just a means to an end. And this is how a lot of us think. Well, I just have to market in this way because when they come into my business, when they become my clients and customers, then I'll really love them and serve them. But I just have to do the scarcity and tricky stuff first. But even the way we market is creating a pattern in the world. We are giving others by how we behave, we give others the permission to behave like that. And so I got the permission to behave that way because I saw so many of my so-called mentors behaving that way. And I didn't have anybody else to tell me there's a different way, And so that's what my hope is, and I'm so glad we're having this conversation, is that others can say, well, there's a different way. There's a way that feels really, really good. And that's what I was going to share, I have never been this healthy in my life. I've never had a better relationship with my spouse. I have never been truly and deeply happy. And of course, every day I do look forward to opening my emails and looking at my social media comments because I can't remember the last time I received a negative comment.
I can't imagine receiving one.
Unless it's from like an internet troll or something. But people, clients and customers and social media commenters are just like, thank you. You are bringing me back to my heart. And so it really makes a difference. And I want everybody listening to this to make that kind of a difference in their own industry. Because this, and also happens to be not only the truly heart-based way, but it also happens to be the way we need to be today to succeed even with the metrics, because everybody looks the same these days.
Yeah, so much noise.
Right? So much noise, so much sameness that the only way any of us can stand out is to be authentic. Because the definition of authenticity means you are being the most you that you can be, and nobody else can be that. You have a unique combination of life experiences, of books you've read, of challenges you've gone through, that nobody has that same combination. Nobody has that, and nobody has your voice. Nobody has your exact same personality. And if you are your most you will stand out like nobody else.
Yeah, and I agree with that so much, George. And the thing I think that a lot of people find really challenging in that, and this is where I do a lot of my work, is helping people to really connect with who they are. Because I think that people have played the almost imposter syndrome, or have, tried to be somebody else because they've seen that works, or they just don't have the courage and the confidence in their own abilities, and they then become quite disconnected from themselves. So I think that this is, what you say is completely true. But I think the step before that is that self-awareness, to first go, well, who am I, and what do I like, and what are my values, and what ethics are true for me, and and all of those things. Because if we don't take that step back and actually get our own core foundation solid, then it's very hard to present yourself authentically, because people can jump on this, the authentic way is almost like the new buzzword, or becoming the new buzzword. And people are going, well, that's the way that people are saying it works. And I've heard George speak, and he does it so well, and so that's how I've got to do it. But they haven't done the work on themselves first to know, well, if I'm going to do it my way, in the way that you just described, George, as what authentic means, they have to first know what that actually means. And I have a lot of people write to me when I write comments about this stuff that say to me, I don't know who I am, sort of what I've lost my way of what I stand for, and almost feel like there's this time pressure that if they take off time from their core business to work on their core self, that they've lost time, and it becomes almost like a loop of never moving forward, because they're not willing to spend the time first developing their own core foundation. But I just think it's impossible to get the success in your business, or the success in your life generally, even your physical health, if you don't have the self-knowledge first.
Oh, it's excellently summarized, because, and you said, I've seen George do this authentic thing, or I've seen Lisa do it, so let me just do it like them. And that's the irony of it is, when you start copying someone else's authentic style, you've lost your own. You've gone away from your own. So yes, you need to first understand what cause in the world do you so want to give your life to, give your work to. What is your style? What is your unique style? You don't, I'm not a funny person. Some people are really funny, and that's normal for them, and that's great. Some people are loud and, so-called obnoxious, but that's just the way that they express their soul. Some people are really quiet, and that's fine too. And some people are extroverted, some people are introverted, but we all have a voice that actually, if we were most ourselves, would resonate so deeply with our unique, or our ideal and unique audience. Because essentially, when people see you being really you, they say, I want to know what that is for me too. And they will follow you, they will consume your content, they'll buy your product if it's the right fit for them, etc. So absolutely.
Yeah, and I think that a part of maybe being a true, authentic voice in your marketing message is to even voice things like what we've just said. So voicing, this is authentic for me, but what's really important is that you find your authentic voice, and it doesn't have to sound like mine, and, on all these different ways to actually outwardly voice that to others is actually being being authentic and teaching and encouraging others to do the same.
Right. Yeah. Imagine if we all dress the same. Because we're supposed to dress that way. Well, actually, right, in corporations, that's often the case. It's just the suits and then the black dresses or whatever it may be, the gray dresses, or it's no wonder people feel so stifled in their work because they can't express their unique selves and authentic selves. But in your business, if it is your business, you are encouraged, you are welcome to dress however you want to dress, So.
And also be self-compassionate, that if you have come from a way like the corporate world, that you're having to dress a certain way or behave in a certain way that is not so individualized, and you are transitioning to having your own business, to be a bit self-compassionate, that it is a journey, and you're going to have to navigate that transition. And if you don't feel like you're doing it your own way straight away, that's actually okay as well, because you'll get there, and you don't just go all of a sudden, click your fingers and you're behaving in a completely different way. There's a pathway and a transitional pathway from one to another, and often you need guidance to get you there, and that's where working with someone else or doing a lot of your own reflective practices can help you navigate through that pathway. But understanding for yourself and being self-compassionate that there is a pathway. It doesn't just happen.
Yes, I thank you for bringing that in. I think in all ways, especially when you are building your business, you are, at every step of the way, you are not where you would like to be yet. And sometimes we can beat ourselves up as we look at other people and how successful they are and how come I'm not there. Every step of the way, every point in your journey, I would say, is perfect at that point.
Yep.
You are in process. I really always remind my clients, you are in process. And if you keep practicing the practices of authentic business, authentic marketing, and self-authenticity, etc., you will become more and more true to yourself and more successful externally because of how others are responding to your authentic self as well. And the other, another really helpful reminder, I believe this to be true, and I wonder if the listeners do as well. I believe that no matter what, we are each deeply taken care of, and even guided by a force in our life much greater than our limited, consciousness. Now, whether you want to call that force your subconscious mind, that springs into action when you really need to get something done. Deadlines focus the mind, right? As one of my mentors has said years ago. So your subconscious, you can call it your subconscious mind, your superconscious. You can call that God, your guardian angel, your super soul, however you want to say it.
Your spark.
Yeah, your spark. Yeah. We are deeply guided. We are deeply taken care of. You really don't have to fear. You really don't. And if you remind yourself of that as often as possible, as often as you need to, I remind myself of that multiple times a day, actually, with just my breathing practice. I breathe in love and I breathe out the idea of total security. It is what then allows me to say, that means I can be authentic and I don't have to act out of fear. Because essentially, doing things to manipulate a sale or to follow some urgency that is unnecessary in our business, but might get some better results, is acting out of fear. And as we act out of fear, we expand the fear in our life because that pattern gets more and more concrete and habitual. And so as we remind ourselves of the well-being that is already available to us at all times, if we tap into it, then our shoulders relax, our hearts expand, and we can start practicing doing things from love and from service and from a sense of total security instead of other ways. Yeah.
Yeah. So just sort of surrendering or allowing it to happen, and flowing with it and trusting. And I think that that trust, that self-trust, is the big one with what you were just saying. And it's just, I totally agree. It's one of those things that's just so important, and really is one of the best mindset tools, I suppose, self-trust or mindset, or the way to think about things. As soon as you trust and just surrender and trust and let go, everything feels so much better. But I think the challenge of it all, it's like knowing that that's true, but the challenge is being able to do that. So it's really nice that you just said, from someone, just like yourself, who is quite masterful at the spiritual way of thinking, or of being more so, that you still have to practice it every day, and you still have a tool that is in place in order to practice self-trust, because it's all good and well to know all of these things, but if we don't integrate them and have tools to make them happen, or to live according to that way, then they just become knowledge or something we know of to do, but we're not actually embodying it. So yeah, I think it's really important that we have tools in place to help us. And I know that your toolbox is just gigantic.
Yeah, with this new book coming out, Joyful Productivity, it is like I put every tool that I know in there. And about a quarter of the way through the book, I have a special section called Let's Take a Pause Now, and remember that the value you get out of reading a book like this isn't the fact that you finished reading it. The value you get out of reading a book is by putting into practice something you resonated with from the book. And I tell people, listen, if you have resonated with something already, please put the book down and go and try it. Go and use it. Because I would care more that you got a new practice that you're doing than the fact that you finished reading the book, And so sometimes, especially for all of us, all those who are listening here, myself included, I love listening to podcasts and watching videos and reading articles and books. Content consumption can become a danger because whether we're listening to a podcast or whether we bought an online course, it becomes dangerous in that you feel like you're getting something done because it feels good to learn something new. You have a new aha moment. It feels secure that someone is giving you a path. But what you don't realize, what we need to remind ourselves, is the path looks secure because someone is telling you ABC are the steps. But the actual walking of that path is actually what matters. And the walking of the path is never as simple as the teacher makes it sound.
Well, never.
And so that's why we shy. That's why we throw ourselves into content consumption, because it feels secure and it feels like we're accomplishing anything, but we haven't done anything.
Yeah.
And so it's so important when you get a tool that you resonate with, when you find an exercise that you go, gosh, that would make a difference in my life, do it immediately. Do it as soon as possible. Try it out. If for whatever reason it is not working quite right, instead of just quitting, so soon, reach out to that teacher, that speaker, that author, and say, hey, I've tried this, and here's what I experienced. Do you have any comments on that? And gosh, I'll tell you, as an author myself, as a speaker, as a trainer, I am so gratified when someone tries to apply what they learn from me.
Yeah.
And you too, Lisa, right? I'm sure, if you create content and share things, it's like we teachers are frequently baffled how rarely people reach out to us to say, hey, I tried this, and here's the challenge I received, as I tried it. And so that's please take this one thing away. If there's one tool I'm going to have you take away the tool of instant or speed of implementation. Try that tool that you love, and then get help from your coach, from your mentor, from the author if you can reach out, and figure that out instead of just going to the next shiny new tool that's supposed to be your savior.
Yeah, totally. And it's like avoiding, such good advice, because, when we don't go into the integration phase, it's like just avoiding the hard work, because it's a lot easier to consume the information than it is to actually do the work. So, the way that I term it in a lot of the work that I do, because I'm really passionate about this integration area, because I do see people going to conference after conference, taking more trainings, always trying to gain more and more information to almost justify their worth when they've already got everything they need inside them and they haven't even tried to integrate it. So I go with the saying that I've put together, which is turn your information into transformation.
Brilliant. I love that. Yes. And, mm-hmm.
So I'm just going to move on, because I've just had a look at the time and we could just keep chatting forever and make this into a three-hour episode. But I want to talk about something that you do so well with the way that you market ethically, and it's just so different than anything that I've ever seen before, and that's your free content. Now, everybody gives free content. Everyone makes videos now. Everybody puts out blogs. vlogs, there's a lot of free content online. There's no doubt about it. But you've gone that step further, whereby everything you do, all your books, your online courses, all of those things are now just free. So, yeah, I'm wondering, you use a term which I love called Genius Unlimited around that idea of free content. And I just want you to talk a little bit about that and how you've come to a position of being able to do that. And is it something you would suggest others do as well? Or is it something that you just feel comfortable doing? Or, I'd like just to hear your views on that.
Great. Yeah, thanks for asking. So I do need to clarify. When I made that transition when starting in 2014, when I started over with an authentic business, I did make a big splash to say, all right, I used to sell online courses for $2,000. Yes, $2,000. And some of us may have encountered course prices like that. And I'm not talking $2,000 total value. Actual price today is $20. I'm talking people paid me $2,000. The total value was $10,000 or whatever hyped up number it was. And in 2014, I made a decision. I'm going to give everything away in terms of content. I can't give away my time. Of course, clients one-to-one still have to pay me for my time, but in terms of what was scalable, I gave it all away. I started creating lots of videos, lots of articles, all that stuff. And then in 2016, I believe, let me think about this. It was actually the beginning of 2017. I made a transition in my view to say, okay, I'm henceforth going to keep giving away what I call the white belt content. Okay, like imagine you're going to a martial arts studio and you see the white belts practicing the basic punches, the basic kicks, the basic self-defense techniques so that they can be safe on the streets or whatever it may be and stay healthy and, practice their discipline and whatever. And for the black belt stuff, for the more advanced stuff, for the things that take more thoughtful implementation, I am going to charge for those. So my books are, they're not expensive. They're $5. You can buy them on Amazon for $5 US dollars, whatever translates into Australian and other currencies. And my online courses are not that expensive. They're no longer $2,000. They are now $45. Now, it's not the same amount of content. I decided to break up what I used to teach for months and months and months on end. It's now really more, less overwhelming and more doable courses that are 3 to 4 sessions. Each session is 60 to 90 minutes. So it's still a lot of content. But yeah, each 3 to 4 session course is about $45, sometimes $60, but $45 to $60 US, which is very reasonable for online courses that teach very doable tactics to grow one's business. And I still blog 3 times a week and make videos 3 times a week with lots of white belt content. And my rationale for it is, again, going back to the martial arts studio, if you look at a white belt class, most of the students are white belt there. You will also see green belts, brown belts, black belts, advanced black belts in that white belt class as well. The black belts are also practicing the punches and the basic kicks, but they're practicing it at a far more nuanced level than the white belts. The black belts know the intricacies of why you're punching this way, the philosophy behind it, the kind of body movement that is so important. They know all but they're still practicing the white belt stuff because they know that is the foundation. If they don't keep the foundation strong, they can't do the advanced stuff. And so even my white belt content is appreciated by more advanced business owners who, that's true. Yes, thank you for reminding me of that foundation. And then the more black belt stuff, people pay $45 a course for. And I have basically one new course, usually one new course per every 4 to 8 weeks. There's a new course for $45. And I think it's a really good model, because it's affordable. Most people can afford that. And it still affords me some revenue from teaching my advanced content. And then one more important thing about it is that I've put everything into the Creative Commons. So what that means is it's no longer copyrighted. So if you buy my book, you'll see a very unusual copyright page in the beginning.
Unusual.
It basically says, hey, feel free to copy and paste the entire book anywhere you want. My first book, I said, hey, copy the whole thing. It'd be nice if you can attribute my name to it. If you copy entire passages or entire book, whatever. With my new book, Joyful Productivity, I'm going even further. I say you can copy the entire thing and sell it under your own name for profit. I don't care. There is no copyright at all to my content.
It's unbelievable. I've never heard of such a thing, or anybody ever doing that. And I did, I read the draft of your Joyful Productivity, and when I read that first bit, I was like, wow. I was so wowed that I took it and read it to someone else. I said, can you believe that this is what he's written? This is unbelievable. But the crazy thing is that if you're dealing with someone who's a person who really values integrity of themselves, it doesn't feel right to copy parts and not credit you.
Yeah. And the same thing with my courses. People pay $45 per course, and it's on the courses videos are uploaded to YouTube as an unlisted video, so it's not searchable on YouTube. But if friends who bought the course are going to share it with their 10,000 friends, it's okay.
Well, I suppose it's the true definition of being in service. And like I've always said, when it comes to say that non-competitive mindset, is if you truly, truly believe in what you're doing, then number one, you're happy for 5, 10, 100, 2,000 people to be doing exactly what you're doing, because there's more people to spread your message. So if you're truly believing in your message, and you're not necessarily just, obviously getting your income is your necessity, but you're not just about the money, but you really are truly authentically about your message, then you want more people to be so-called copying or doing what you're doing, because they've got another audience that they can spread it to. So I suppose, in that way, it really is being of true service and being 100%, true to the message of what you're trying to achieve. So, kudos to you. It's amazing that you've had the courage to be able to have that that mindset that you talk about of this genius unlimited, that that it's okay if someone copies it. I've got more. It's inside of me. My creativity is unlimited. It's abundant. I'll just create more of something else, and
it's really true.
It's just so refreshing.
And as you said, people start to become your advocates. When I used to lock down my content, so afraid that, oh my God, people who bought my course, if they shared it with even their spouse should be paying for this too, let alone sharing it on social media, whatever.
Yeah.
But now that I'm giving it, I'm unlocking it, even though people, ironically, people become my advocates, and they say, hey, here's the first part of this course, but you really should pay for the rest of it because it's really good and it's really worthwhile, and it's $45, and it's not going to break the bank, and you learn a lot, and so I want all of us listening to have advocates, and that is such a joy then to create content, create courses, whether it's paid or free, for your advocates, for your kindred spirits.
And for your own well-being as well, because, you think you're looking after your well-being by charging, because then you've got income to be able to live, and then your stress goes down. But actually the opposite often happens, because if you're stressing about people copying it, or having to deal with the emotional side of when somebody does, how to deal with that, and what action to take, the actual opposite is happening. Whereas if you don't have any limitations or conditions, then you've actually got a path to liberation and freedom.
Yes.
And so the feeling you have inside is actually one of much greater well-being.
Yeah. It really, that's why I love my life now 100 times, 1,000 times more, it feels like, than when I was making more money. Because yes, I'm making less money now, but I'll have to say, first of all, just for everybody, I live in San Francisco, California, one of the more expensive cities in the world, and I live fine. We get to pay all our bills. I still have some money left for savings. We can go on, at least one nice vacation a year. So I'm by no means lacking in income, but I'm not making the kind of hand over fist money I was before, but I am far, far happier.
Yeah, and I think that when we come from a joyful place, when we are joyful inside, everything else has a ripple effect anyway. We probably, in some ways, do stuff bring in more income, we have better relationships, we don't project because we've got a greater sense of self, and everything else generally just flows. And when we're in that happy, joyful, flowing state, we don't even feel like we need necessarily the income we thought that we might need.
Yeah, it's true. We find the fulfillment in maybe the little things in life, or in our relationships, or we don't have to buy ever more stuff because we've learned to appreciate even more deeply the things that we do have.
So what I want to move on to, because, we could talk about that sort of stuff for ages, because I think we're both really quite passionate about it. But, flowing on from that, which is really flows on beautifully, is your model of authentic pricing. So I read something that you wrote which really went, oh, wow, that makes sense to me, but I never really thought about it in that way, is this idea that we hear so much from business coaches and online, and especially targeted to women, is charge your worth. Women get it all the time, this whole idea that if you give something away for free, or that you have a lower price than they believe that you should be charging, that you're not charging your worth, and you're devaluing yourself, and that you possibly got money mindset issues. And I think I have a real, I think that there's some value in what the message they're trying to put out, as in, value yourself. But I think that the way that it's put out, which you highlighted really well in something that you wrote, was when they put it as charging your worth, you say that it puts like human worth becomes quantifiable, which it just really isn't quantifiable, and that the dangers of connecting monetary self-worth to your own self-worth makes you feel of less worth when other people are charging more than you, because if they're charging more, then they must be more worthy. And so I loved the way that you brought those together. How did you come? I want to know, how that thought came about, and also if you could explain your pricing philosophy, because that's really interesting as well, with the charge as little as you can get away with.
Yeah, isn't that interesting, right? Because most business, gurus teach us to charge as much as we can. The more we can get away with, the better. The economic principle is charge what the market can bear.
Yep.
Right? And let's think about this. Let's say that you are my market, because maybe you're an ideal client, you're an ideal customer of mine. How do you like it when I'm thinking to myself, I'm going to charge whatever Lisa can bear?
Yeah, it certainly doesn't feel good.
Well, but that's what a lot of business owners think that they should be thinking. Like, they're not trying to be mean or to be cynical, but they are thinking, well, what can Lisa bear? What's the maximum she can pay, and that will still not make her angry? And versus, what if we first get clear on what we need in our own life, what our business needs to make for our lifestyle, which is why, again, it's good in the beginning not to require so much of your business. It's like requiring a lot from a baby. It's like the baby is just starting to walk. Are you telling the baby to go get a job? What's going on here, right? So in the beginning, especially, don't require so much from your business. Hopefully, you have an income source or have savings or and then. The other principle besides enoughness, the other principle is compassion. What can I charge Lisa that would make her go, oh my gosh, that is such a good deal. I am so grateful. I'm going to tell everybody I know what a great price this is, And it's this balance between, wow, what a great price, and it's not so low that Lisa will go, that doesn't seem credible. Why would it? No, I don't believe this. We need to also charge a price that's reasonable, but a price that elicits this feeling of, wow, what a great value. Now, the way that marketers typically teach us to do that is to hype up the this is valued at, and we've all seen this. We've gone to various stores and we've seen the price tag. Originally at $999, now only $100, and we're like, yeah, I don't think they sold it to anybody at $1,000, right? So we become cynical about it as consumers, and when we see business coaching programs, originally, typically it's if you add all these different modules and support together, it's $25,000, and you can only get this today at 90% off. It's only $2,500 now. What they're appealing to us is they think we're idiots, but unfortunately, what they're appealing to us is our lizard brain, our kind of salivating brain of like, well, it sounds like a really big deal, Yeah. And just to complete the thought that you started with about charging what we're worth, I started. I came to this feeling of enoughness and compassion, and then I looked at my peers, and my peers, again, I love them. Some of them are my friends, but they charge way more than me per hour when I looked at what I really needed. And some of them charge $1,000 per hour for business coaching, which is actually not unusual for an advanced business coach to charge $1,000 an hour. US dollars, and some charge easily $500 an hour, or at the very, very bottom, $250 an hour. Very normal for a business coach. And here I am charging $150 an hour. So then I started feeling a little bit low self-esteem, and I said, well, does that mean I'm less good of a business coach? and I don't want to judge anybody's skill set because everybody, again, is unique in the combination of their skill sets and how they resonate with different people and how they can help different people. So even the skill set, it's hard to say who is quote unquote better because it's about fit, right? It's not that somebody who is the perfect client for you, Lisa, might try a very high priced coach and find that, wow, this high priced coach is supposed to be more skillful and more experienced, but I like Lisa so much better. And if I like her better, if I have chemistry with her, if I trust her, then I am more likely to make those changes in my life that she is helping me work through. So it's about fit, and it's not about not really about value or perceived value or worth, certainly not about worth. Because, gosh, we are then all competing with each other to say, well, no, I'm more worthwhile as a person or as a business owner, as a provider than you because of my price. Right?
Yeah, and that's yeah, that defeats the whole. I mean, especially if you're a business coach or a life coach or any coach, I would imagine that the thing you're trying to well, I hope that one of the things that they're trying to achieve the most with their clients is for their clients to have a good self-worth and good self-esteem. And so if you're sort of going on the line of teaching them that monetary stuff is making someone more or less worthy, it's almost like you're almost degrading them because they might not be charging much, and therefore you're almost calling them less worthy than you if you're their coach charging a lot, or all different ways. So you're actually having the adverse effect and lowering their self-worth.
Yeah, and so now I flip that around, and if I see someone charging such a great deal rate, that I thought, what a great deal, and your clients must think that's a great deal, and if you are able to be financially sustainable with that pricing, then my God, I'm going to promote you. I'm going to share you forward. You should be highly respected, for being able to do that, and it's sort of like the opposite, right?
And that's awesome. There should be more people like you doing that. But unfortunately, I think that there are still a lot of people that have the mindset that if something is expensive, it must be good. And unfortunately, a lot of people fall under that trap. And and same with what you said before. If something isn't expensive, people automatically question what's wrong with it, rather than going, what great value. And I think that you can do that so well as because you put out so much free content that you've developed a lot of relationships. So if someone is questioning, say, your low price, all they need to do is then go back to your content, go to your page, go to your website, view so much of what you have, and then satisfy themselves with knowing that George actually is extremely valuable and extremely knowledgeable and extremely wise. He's just really ethical, or chooses to, only charge what he needs.
Thank you for saying that. I think it's true, and all of us as business owners can do that. We can make that clear on our page that shows the price to say, I know others charge more, but I invite you to look at my testimonials. I invite you to have a conversation with me. I invite you to look at my blog or whatever it may be, to judge for yourself instead of being taken with instant assumptions. And yes, and like you said, if you do the joyful work of authentic content, if you put that out there into the world, people will come to know, like, love, and trust you, such that they'll say, Lisa is the only coach that I want to work with. I don't care what her price is, high or low, right?
Yeah. Totally, yeah. It's amazing. I love all your philosophies and the way that you really tackle all this. And I think that what makes it work really well is your transparency.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's a really good a good way to do things, just to be transparent and upfront, and and then it allows for more of that that real connection. Now, I'm aware of the time, and we have gone, and I know that you're really busy, and as well as I'm sure listeners just don't have the time to really go and listen for too long. I really did want to talk a lot next about joyful productivity and some of the ways that you do that and the tools that you put in. But I think that we're going to have to maybe at some time down the track, if you're available to, maybe schedule another session which talks more about that, because that's a whole nother area and we could go on for another hour. So I think that we'll probably leave more of the tools and stuff related around joyful productivity, but your book is coming out, so I'll put all the links to that on the show notes, and people can read a lot of that themselves as well. But is there anything under the banner of the joyful productivity that that is a standout for you, that is really something that people could really implement, or a way of thinking that people could use, that you could share with us now?
Wow. Yeah, thank you for asking. And I know that, we are running out of time. And yes, this has been a joyful conversation. I absolutely would be happy to come back and talk in depth about joyful productivity. But I guess I'll leave everyone with the reminder that truly you are being guided by a power higher than any of us, I believe. And I believe that you're going to be okay. And so, just as Lisa has said, you've got the answers within you. You've got the capacity within you to create that life that you dream of or wish you could have. And yes, it does make things much smoother and easier if you have the support of a coach like Lisa to do this. And but trust that you are being led on this process toward your deepest joy, your greatest freedom, and your true self.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And, and it is so true. And just, and I just want to add to that for the listeners, that's a big, sort of, how would I put it? A more of a spiritual angle of coming to it with how to remain joyful and, in your productivity. But I want to let the listeners know that in your book on joyful productivity, there's a lot of really, really pragmatic, grounded tools that George has shared that you can use to get the most joy out of the work that you do and the processes that he goes through that. And he does, George, you talk a lot about process rather than outcome, and concentrating on process and imperfect action, and, just putting out quantity, really focusing on that and being strict on the quantity and sort of more lenient on the quality. So there's a lot of information for people if they want to dig deeper into this area, and I would love it. And thank you for agreeing to come back down the track and talk more about this subject, because you've just got some real gold in there on this topic, and it's amazing.
And I'll just one quick thing. It's because quantity leads to quality.
Yes.
And we can go on, of course, for another hour about that. But that's why some people might be shocked. I said, what? Don't care about quality? No, it's not don't care. Of course we care about quality, but we have to remember how we get there.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so the learning processes that happen each time that we put more and more out, and show up and be visible, we get feedback. We see what feels good for ourselves. We can really reflect on it and reflect from others, as well as connect reflecting in. So that's the process to then get the best quality stuff, is what I'm hearing that you're saying. Is that right?
That's exactly right. Yeah.
And one of the other things which really resonates with me a lot when I was reading all about this joyful productivity stuff is that all of your tools that you talk about in this book are really, really align with my mantra of connection is medicine, so that connection is basically everything that we need. And you do this so well because every tool that you mentioned has a connective element to it. So you're either connecting with yourself through your self-awareness, your visualization, your breathing, you're connecting to others with developing the relationships and accountability. And then you were connecting, to the universe through your breath and through the self-trust and those bigger things. So, it was really, that you talk about that spark before. That spark was just like, beaming when I was reading all this stuff, because it was like, I so align and resonate with all these things, and it's all about connection. So, so it's wonderful, and I feel so grateful to have found you and all the information, resource and content that you put out. And I know that so many other people feel the same way. So to finish this off and to wrap it up, I just want to ask you one question, and that is, what does success mean to you?
Yeah, well, that's a great question.
What's the purpose of life or success to you?
Success is defined by each person.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, and I think that's important because we grow up with the definitions of success subconsciously embedded into us by the media, by celebrities, by our authority figures. And so for me, success is to stay connected to my deepest source of joy and creativity and truth and love. And the more I can return to that, if I return to that today has been a success.
That's beautiful. Yeah, it really puts success, it takes it out of just that way, that really linear business way of thinking, and really makes it into, like we talked about before, that if we can really gain that feeling of that joyful feeling, it has that ripple effect on everything, and then every moment becomes purposeful and successful.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because there is that return to the success in the moment, rather than feel that we are always lacking the life we want. And that is what creates, I think, a lot of anxiety and maybe even depression for people. So if we come to the realization that as we define success, that definition can apply to each moment that we become conscious of it, then essentially we can be living successfully all the time. And if we have that inner sense of being and joy, it tends to pour out into the external metrics and success as well. Yeah.
Brilliant. Oh, there's so much amazing stuff we've talked about today, and and so much more, as I said right in the beginning. Trying to limit the content for today was really, really challenging, and I thought I'd done it, and I thought I'd limited some of it, and I still had a whole topic to talk about. So just it shows how much amazing stuff there is on this topic, and your wisdom and your knowledge and your groundedness and your generosity and your true authenticity is just remarkable. And I feel so much gratitude that you've given me and the listeners your time today to talk about this. And I'm really looking forward to jumping on another show with you and talking more about it. So thank you so much, George.
You're so welcome. It's been such a joy in this conversation. And I'll just say, I'm a student of life like all of us are. And I am not perfect, in living 100% of what I teach every day. I am still continually tweaking and learning and growing myself. But I like to say I'm a big picture perfectionist, right? I see the entire process as being perfect. And so I guess maybe we can end on that is that, no matter where you are, there is no self-blame that is needed. There's only the gentle return to the realization that you're going to be okay and that you are being guided and that there's so much opportunity for you. So blessings to everybody, and I do hope to see everyone again or hear everyone again or speak to everyone again soon.
Thank you so much. So thank you everyone for tuning in today, and whether you've listened in live or you're listening to the replay now. We did go a little over time. I like to keep the shows to an hour because I know your limited listening availability. But we did go over, and I hope that that's been okay because the content was so interesting for you. But yeah, thanks for coming, and stay tuned for the next episode, which will be in 2 weeks at this same link. And I'll put out information about that in the next coming week or so. But thanks again for joining me for Wealthy Living Radio Show. And I hope you have a beautiful day wherever you are. Blessings and goodbye.